It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Now we can say welcome to the 2025 baseball season because we all experienced on a Sunday afternoon in Washington, D.C., without a shadow of a doubt, the worst loss of the season and a completely Metsian train wreck. A kind of game we've watched for years, the kind of game we've watched for decades. And even though the Mets are 19-9, which is a great record, and even though there's still a lot of things to feel really good about, and it's early in the season, and they're up in first place in the National League East, it is a lie to say that didn't feel like a massive kick in the balls. When you have a 7-1 lead in the bottom of the seventh inning against the Washington Nationals, and you have the myriad of scoring opportunities that the Mets had to make this worse. When you had the opportunity to chase their starting pitcher, Mitchell Parker, out of the game in the second freaking inning, when you have fly balls in the outfield where two guys look at each other like, I have no idea what the hell's going on. When you have the kind of absolutely brutal loss the Mets put together in game 3 of this 4-game series, you could save me what their record is. I get it. They're 19-9. I understand. I'm not telling you the sky is falling. I'm not telling you this is going to be the loss that leads to the demise of the 2025 Mets, but it is okay. In fact, there's something wrong if you don't think it's okay to say that sucked and that was the worst loss of the year and that ruined my Sunday, unless you're a Knicks fan. Like, the biggest mistake I made was I said to my wife, and with the pitch clock, I love this now. I said, hon, let's go out to dinner. We rarely get that opportunity, just me and her. Let's have like a mini date night. And she said, great, what time? I said, 5:30. That seems perfect. You know, even if the Met game somehow goes 3 hours, Knick game will be over. Met game goes 3 hours. Great, time to change. Let's go, a little Mexican dinner. And we had that date night. And I'll tell you, the food was good, but there was a cloud hanging over my head. Even she's like, you all right? I said, I'm fine. The Mets are great. They're 19-9, but it pisses me off to watch that garbage. It pisses me off to watch them take a game that is in their hands and throw it away. And we'll spend time going through all the different ways they throwed this game away, but they threw this game away. And here is the warning sign that you have to keep in mind. I want you to go back to game 2 of this series on Saturday. A game the Mets won 2-0 against the Washington Nationals. A game in which Clay Holmes gave you 5 scoreless, and the Met bullpen somehow, some way, was able to get 4 scoreless innings, 12 outs. They made a lot of tiny mistakes in that game. And I wrote them down because I knew, hey, this is the kind of stuff we'll go deep into on Rico Brogna. I wrote down every mistake they made. And when they won that game and Edwin Diaz struck out Jose Tena to end that game, I said to myself, you know what? Okay, great. They made all these mistakes. It turned out not to matter. But I'll still bring it up on the Rico because they're warning signs. Because you're not always going to be able to get away with bad mistakes. And if you go back to game 2 of this series, I'll give you the tiny ones. Francisco Lindor on a 3-2 hit and run first inning. Soto at the plate. Juan strikes out. It happens. It's not like Juan Soto's Tony Gwynn up there. We love him, but he does strike out. And Francisco Lindor just runs right into second base without sliding. And initially, they called him safe. He was clearly out. So here you have the captain, the guy we love, the guy who's very tough to rip. He had 3 hits in this game, making a mental mistake. He'd be the first to admit it. It was a dumb mistake. He slides. Maybe he's safe. I don't know what he's thinking. Then you've got Juan Soto a few innings later hitting a tapper in front of the mound or in front of the plate, and he never runs. Never runs. You've got the Mets, other than the Alvarez 2-run home run that gave him a 2-0 lead, doing dick with runners in scoring position, which is something we've gone accustomed to. We've got Pete Alonso, and I forget which game this was. This may have actually been the Sunday game. Pete Alonso making a brutal base running decision that we never even saw because a ball wasn't caught in foul territory by Nathaniel Lowe. That was actually the Sunday game. where if he makes that play in foul territory, for some reason, Pete Alonso is rounding second base, and it would have turned into an easy double play. The Mets make a lot of little mistakes. And what's scary about little mistakes, as we saw on Sunday, is those little mistakes will at some point blow up in your face. And as they're leading the Nationals 7-1, and they couldn't put Mitchell Parker away early in this game, and they couldn't buy a big hit with runners in scoring position, and Tyler McGill was looking fantastic. I mean, I got nothing bad to say about Tyler. I think it was one of those outings where his final pitching line, 6 1/3, 3 runs, doesn't do justice. He comes into the 7th inning pitching an excellent game outside of one mistake he makes to Dylan Cruz. But that 7th inning, and this is one of those little mistakes that maybe you jot down or maybe you put it in your memory bank, but you don't think it's going to come back and kill you because you're up 7-1 in the 7th inning. You get a fly ball to right center field and take your pick. I mean, it's really on Juan Soto, but Tyrone Taylor as the aggressive center fielder, if he sees that Juan is having trouble with it, of course, could call him off, but it's Juan Soto's ball and he loses it in the sun. No one knows where it is. And you gift the Nationals in a 6-run game just a tiny bit of momentum, just a tiny bit. And then you've got a bullpen. And here's the thing about bullpens. When they suck, I will say this. When they are dominant, I will say this. Bullpens are fragile. From week to week, from month to month, from day to day, certainly from year to year, they will go from looking like the nasty boys to looking like garbage. And Jose Butto comes in after Tyler McGill gives up an RBI hit to Josh Bell with 1 out in the 7th inning. Okay, 7-2, no big deal. And after he strikes out Dylan Cruz, boy, did we see the worst of Jose Butto. Get a freaking out. He gives up 3 straight hits. He gives up a 3-run home run to the backup catcher in Riley Adams. What's happened to Jose Butto? Basically, the name change has ruined him. But that inning was created by a defensive miscue. Let's not forget that. It was created by Juan Soto not seeing a fly ball in the sun and right field. It was created by Tyrone Taylor maybe not noticing that, being aggressive, and calling him off. That's what started it. But Jose Butto certainly lit the whole freaking inning on fire by giving up 3 straight hits to the bottom of the order. You're up in this game 7-2. There's 2 outs and a runner on first, and you're facing 7, 8, and 9, and Jose Butto completely implodes. Completely. But you know what? Even after he gives up the 3-run home run to Riley Adams, he gets the last out of the 7th inning. They have a 1-run lead. You take a deep breath because you know, all right, the Mets still have a chance to tack on some more runs. Maybe there'll be more urgency in the sticks now, knowing that it's not 7-1, but now it's 7-6. And after a very meek 8th inning, you are set up in the 9th inning against Jackson Rutledge with 2nd and 3rd and nobody out. And you've got you got Vientos, Marte, and Nimmo coming up. You got to get a run home. You have to. Yeah, 2nd and 3rd, nobody out with 4, 5, and 6 coming up. Hit the ball to the outfield, please. And the Mets did a great job of that early in the game because you go back to the 1st inning when they were set up with bases loaded, nobody out. And certainly we're having that same vision of, boy, the Mets can actually take advantage of it. Think about how they did take advantage of it. They got 2 sacrifice flies. And then finally, they got some 2-out magic from Luis Torrens and Luis Angel Acuna. But they scored those first 2 runs on good contact. Not all contact is created equal. Hit the ball in the air against the immortal Jackson Rutledge. Vientos hits it hard. It's tough to kill him, but it's on the ground. C.J. Abrams makes that incredible play. That's the Nationals making a play. The Mets not. Then you've got Starling Marte, who didn't have the worst game in the world because he had a good at-bat early drawing that walk. He drove in a run in the 2nd inning on a fielder's choice. Again, good contact, driving a run in. But here in the 9th inning with 1 out in 2nd and 3rd, and I literally thought this. My thought was, and this is before really fully realizing Edwin Diaz was not going to be available, and yes, we'll get to that. My thought was, if they don't add a run here, They're going to lose this game. They're going to lose this game. There's no way we're sitting here doing a Rico talking about all the F-ups they had and still managed to hold on and win 7-6. So I looked at the Marte at-bat and the Nimmo at-bat as this is it because they're not holding on. And I still didn't even realize it wasn't going to be Edwin Diaz at this point. Maybe they had showed him in the bullpen. I'm not sure, but I didn't fully digest it. And Marte grounds out. And Nimmo grounds out. Nimmo hits the ball hard. We're going to hear about his exit velocity. Great. He hit it right at the second baseman, Luis Garcia. And with second and third and nobody out, they can't score. They start the game 3 for 3 with runners in scoring position. They were 0 for their last 9. Does that not sound familiar? For a 19-9 boy, they fail in big spots. And then you get the bottom of the 9th inning. Now, my reaction to Diaz not being available, I got two sides. I got the aggressive, I want to win Evan side, and the reasonable, it's a long season, let's not get crazy Evan. Because I know that if we have this conversation at the All-Star break, let's just say we're doing a bunch of Ricos at the All-Star break, and we're analyzing some of the losses from earlier in the season, some of the bad losses, some of the great wins, I would probably in a very calm voice say, you know what? I know we went crazy on April 27th that Edwin Diaz wasn't available, but, Mendy was looking big picture. It's a long season. He's pitched a lot. You got to be smart. And so there is that side of me, the reasonable Evan side, that will rear its head every once in a while, who says, I get it. It's a long season. It's game 28 of 162. What are we doing? But the Evan and the you that sat there on a Sunday afternoon hoping our baseball team wasn't going to blow a 7-1 lead is thinking to themselves, I really want Edwin Diaz on the mound. Because now I don't need to hear it from Hoff anymore. I don't need to hear it from anyone else. We all know how important he is. If you don't know how important he is yet, I don't know what to tell you. But the last 3 days should be a lesson that as much as Edwin Diaz drives you nuts, and he drives us all nuts, and he makes you nervous, the New York Mets, I'll say this as slowly as I can without screaming, the New York Mets need Edwin Diaz. They do. If they are going, I said this last year a bunch of times, and I think it was during his struggles back in May when he went on the injured list and all that. And I'll say it today. The last couple of days of April, whether he gets hurt or he's healthy or he's struggling or he's dominating or he's not available because Mendy doesn't want to pitch him back-to-back on April 26th and April 27th, I will say it for everyone in the back. If the Mets are going to get where they want to go, where we want them to go, they need Edwin Diaz. It is absolute lunacy to think otherwise. They need him. The bullpen is different without him. They need him. Now, are we talking about 2026? Are we talking about him opting out and how much we'd pay him? That's a discussion for the offseason. So how much they should pay him and how many years they should give him and opting out or opting in, that's for 6 months from now. But for today, they need him. Because Ryan Stanek is a typical MLB reliever. He's up, he's down, he's unlucky, he's lucky. That's all he is. He's a typical MLB reliever. So he comes in and tried to make this 9th inning with a 1-run lead as painful as possible. And I'll tell you something. If you don't believe me, I guess I'll do a screenshot for those that are consuming the Rico Brogna on YouTube. I'm going to show you something. And it's because I'm a sick, twisted fan. But this is the first time I did this all year. Have not done this all season. But I'm going to show something into the camera. I don't know if you can see. What that is me being a loser. The image I just showed is I bet the Nationals in the bottom of the 9th inning. As the 9th inning began, I went to my little FanDuel app and I took out emotional insurance because I knew they were blowing this freaking game. And I don't say that a lot if you're a new listener to the Rico. I don't usually sit here and say, I know they were going to lose. I knew they were going to win. Most of the time, I have no idea. Or my gut feeling tells me different things. My gut feeling, the pit in my stomach knew. No Edwin Diaz, 86 different F-ups to lead to this point, including second and third, nobody out, they can't score, including Juan Soto not being able to see a fly ball in the sun, including all the missed scoring opportunities, including Mendy saying, I'm going to save Edwin Diaz. He's not available today. Here's Ryan Stanek, who blew a game 48 hours ago. I knew they'd blow this game. And you have Stanek pumping out 101-mile-an-hour fastballs ahead of the immortal Alex Cole 0-2, and he rips a double down the right field line. Oh, my goodness. You can feel it. Then Davey Martinez shows some guts, takes the backup catcher, Riley Adams, who hit the 3-run home run out to go to Keibert Ruiz, and he gets a very productive out, bouncing the ball to second base. And then again, Stanek, just to tease us a little bit, gets ahead of C.J. Abrams 1-2, gives up a base hit to right field. And after he gives up the base hit, you can still win the game. I mean, like we saw 2 nights ago. Find a way to get the last 2 outs. Get this thing to the 10th inning. I know the Nationals are going to show you Kyle Finnegan in the 10th inning, so the advantage certainly lies with them, especially with Diaz not being available. But who knows? Maybe if this game goes 10 or 11 innings, Carlos Mendoza changes his mind. I doubt it. We're probably looking at Jose Urena pitching the 10th inning. So the odds were not high that even if they kept it tied in the 9th inning, that they were going to win this game. But walking James Wood and setting up the nightmare scenario. I love Pete Alonso. We all love Pete Alonso. Not only has Pete had a great offensive season, got on base 3 more times in this game, but his defense has been splendid. His scoops have been accurate. His range has been great. I mean, really, all the way around, Pete's been gold glovey at first base. His one bugaboo, not this year, but in the past, has been the spring training play. And how does this game end? With Pete Alonso completely effing up the spring training play. Throwing it over Stanek's head. I mean, I started laughing as it happened. I was laughing because it was, wow, we got it all today. We hit Mets suck bingo on this Sunday afternoon. We hit it all. We got the $800 million right fielder not judging a fly ball in right. We've got 1 million non-clutch hits. We got a bullpen implosion. We got ahead of the count extra base hits like we saw the Nationals pull off. And now we got a guy who's been perfect this season, so it's impossible to rip him, throwing the ball over Ryan Stanek, who's pretty tall, over his head, committing an error and putting us out of our misery. And handing us as Met fans, far and away, it's not close because they had only had 8 losses before this, their worst loss of the season. Everything about it. And what I hope, because I do want to have some positivity, they are 19-9, which is a great record. Very happy about that record. But what I hope this game does, because sometimes losses can teach you things, I hope this is the loss that makes them realize those little things that they have screwed up over the last couple of days, some of which I've talked about here on the pod, the Lindor, I won't slide in a second, Soto not running on a tapper, the little Brandon Nimmo throwing to the wrong base, which we got a few days ago. There's been so many that maybe a loss like this is so sobering that a loss like this makes them realize, yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're 19-9. We got to clean this up. We can't play sloppy baseball. And the reality is you can't, because there are teams they're going to face at some point, including Tuesday, Arizona. They're going to face good teams. And against some crappy teams, you can get away with those mistakes. You can get away with throwing to the wrong base. You can get away with not sliding into second. You can get away with some subpar defense. And yes, you can get away with never getting a big hit or being incredibly inconsistent in terms of getting clutch hitting. But against better teams, you're not going to be able to get away with that. And so hopefully, if I am looking for some kind of positive from this implosion, the worst loss of the season, I've already written it down. So when we do our half-season recap on best wins and worst losses, this will be a tough one to beat. But hopefully this is the loss you look back on and say, we got to clean this crap up, because that's an awful loss. And it spoils some of the good. Tyler McGill was really good in this game. And Tyler McGill is starting to convince me and many others, wow, he may actually survive this rotation. This is a guy who has earned rotation spots with good spring trainings and eventually loses them. And if you look back at McGill at the close of last year, McGill to start this season, he's been great. And this was one of his most dominant starts, even if the pitching line isn't going to agree with it. And really, he set the tone from jump when he struck out C.J. Abrams on 3 pitches, and he was attacking the strike zone. He didn't walk guys other than one that he issued to Alex Call start in the 3rd inning. And he has a big lead, and he gives up a home run to Dylan Cruz, and it's like, all right, you got a big lead. Attack the strike zone. He pitches into the 7th inning, 92 pitches after 6. I think the only reason Mendy pushed him to start the 7th inning was because they had a big lead, because it was 7-1. And he figured, I don't want to have to use more of my bullpen. If I can get McGill through 7 and all I need is 6 outs out of my bullpen, that'll save me some arms. I do want to give credit to Huascar Brazaban because he could have been the blower before the blowee. 8th inning, 1-run lead. He gives up a leadoff double to James Wood. I think we all thought, all right, we're going to be put out of our misery right here and there. And he somehow fights through it. Gets Luis Garcia on a little ground ball right to the catcher. Walks Lau, strikes out Bell, gets Tenya on that soft line drive to Vientos. So quality inning out of Huascar Brazaban, but it was Jose Butto, Ryan Stanek, some crappy defense that did the Mets in and handed them the worst loss of the season. Anyone else we need to rip off? And yeah, you should also apologize again for saying they're better off without Edwin Diaz, because I think that has punched you in the face over the last few days.
Yeah, it hasn't been great. I'll tell you that much. I don't want to say like, hey, you know, I'm going to eat my words. Edwin Diaz definitely is much needed. Listen, you're 100% right. Ryan Stanek, he's not the guy. And I'm sorry that I'll take the L on that one. Ryan Stanek's not the guy. But the problem goes a little further than that. We talked about all the mess ups. We talked about Alonso's defense today was absolute dog shit. I mean, again, do you go to McGill and have him start the 7th inning? That's something that I continue to look at with the starting pitching. I don't always disagree. We got to go batter by batter. But I think that's really what it comes down to. Carlos Mendoza, when we've had these big leads, there's been too many times so far in this early season where we see one more extra inning started by the starter.
Okay, but let's go batter by batter. All right, 7-1 Mets, 7th inning. Luis Garcia pops a ball up to right field. It turns into a Sun-aided double, but Tyler McGill, we're going batter by batter, effectively got the first guy out. It turned into a Sun-aided double. Would you have taken him out right then and there because Juan Soto couldn't find the ball in the sun?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he kept him in, and he struck out the next guy. So McGill responded immediately by recovering from that miscue by striking out Lau. Then he gives up the base hit to Bell, and he pulls him. So I don't think Mendy did anything wrong. I disagree with you in terms of handling Tyler McGill. This comes down to just ineffectiveness from Jose Butto, and then the decision to not use Edwin Diaz, because this is the tough thing to argue. We can all take a step back and say, hey, it's April 27th. It's all about being at your best when it matters the most, right? We all can accept that. But what made Edwin Diaz so unavailable today? What made that the case? He can't pitch back-to-back games, something we've seen this season. Like, what's the cutoff that made Mendoza? And maybe it's something we don't know. And that's what I was a little concerned about, because when Stanek comes into the game, I'm texting the Mets chat like, man, I just hope he's all right. And that is still on my mind, even though Mendy said he just wasn't available. Let's see him be available on Monday afternoon. Let's see him be available on Tuesday night. There is a little worry because he was dealing with that hip thing that caused him to leave a game early, that this could all be injury related, even if Carlos Mendoza is not admitting it. But that's what did them in, because if Diaz is Diaz, he hasn't blown a game yet this year, they could win the game. And then all those little mistakes don't add up, and Edwin Diaz shuts the door. But Mendy decided on his own, I'm not making him available today.
No, and I get that. I do believe that there's something probably further wrong with them, and they just can't say whatever it is. And I don't think it's too serious, but it's something that they have to monitor to make sure that first of all, they have a long stretch of games that they're not taking. When's the next break? Like, do they have one Thursday?
No. So they are in the midst of another 13-game stretch. They had the off day on Thursday, but they've got these 4 against Washington. Because remember, this is not a Rico recap of a series, Rico. We'll have that on Monday. This is reaction to the meltdown, Rico. So they wrap up the series Monday. They got 3 games against Arizona Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then they go to St. Louis and play 3 games. So, no, they're in the stretch of 13 straight days in which they're playing.
So, and I will give Mendoza a little credit for. Maybe he's trying to think a little forward. This is a long stretch of games.
It is.
I don't want Diaz to go back-to-back, and that's all it is. And he's available tomorrow won't be a problem, because to have him every other day is even more important than to use him 2 or 3 days in a row and then sit him for 2 to 3 days after that. You know,
that's why I know we may be angry about it in the moment. In a few days, a few weeks, you look at it and say, yeah, you got to manage big picture, because they are in the middle of a stretch of a long amount of games, and they didn't have a lot available. And really, when you look at the state of the bullpen right now, obviously the A.J. Minter injury the other day was also very concerning and feels very concerning as he instantly goes on the injured list. Now, luckily, it's not a tricep, which is what they first said it was. It actually turned into what they're calling a lat strain. But who knows how long that is? I mean, we may not see A.J. Minter at all for the rest of the first half of the season. That is a major blow to this bullpen. And this is all connected. When you look at a game like Sunday, it's connected because now Minter, the one reliable lefty in the bullpen, is out. Danny Young still exists. And while Danny pitched well the other day, no one trusts him. Jose Butto has gone backwards. Ryan Stanek has gone backwards. Brazoban got the job done, but I'm not sure how many people actually trust him. So what is the updated circle of trust in the Met bullpen? It's Reed Garrett, who's been great this season. It's Edwin Diaz. I guess it's Max Kranick. Max, for the most part, has pitched really well. But Butto and Stanek and Brazoban, even despite getting the job done on Sunday, like, there are concerns now about an aspect of this team that was so good to start. And I think it's going to put a little bit more pressure on this rotation to go deeper into games, which is a part of why I did like seeing Mendy challenge McGill on one of his most electric performances to start and complete the 7th inning, even though he couldn't.
Well, and that's my gripe. And you're right. Like, hey, maybe you're challenging your guys, but here's the thing is, they're failing for some reason, whether it's not even Tyler McGill's fault today that they failed. It was Juan Soto and the bullpen. The fact is they failed. And at this point in time, I think that if you're going to have to go to the bullpen anyway, why not give Butto a clean inning? He's not doing well.
Because there was no sign that McGill should have come out. And honestly, again, he got the first guy out. He got a fly ball to right field. It was misjudged in the sun, and then he struck out the next guy.
I know.
So I there was no sign that you should take McGill out. McGill was awesome in this game. He was awesome. Now let's get to some of your emails, because you can imagine what that's like. Not a lot of happy people, or people that are going to say, calm down. Don't worry. It's one game. They're 19-9, which is true. Michael writes, let's all calm down. Let's start with a let's calm down email. I write this email in the wake of a Jossian epiphany. It's time for us Met fans to face our fears. This team needs a struggle. Think about it. You know it's true. For the first time, or for this team to reach its full potential, we need to travel to the depths of baseball Hades. Boy, you're really confusing me today, Michael. Maybe it's because I'm tired and I've had a long day. I know this may be difficult to hear. As much as we all want the Mets to win 110 games and coast through the regular season, we know it would not be in the best interest of the team. If you're a Mets fan under 40, like myself, let's not forget the foundation that all fun and successful Mets seasons are built upon: frustration and dysfunction. Let's not pretend that 2015 or 2024 was all rainbows and unicorns. That was 06 and 22. Seasons that have traumatized some of us beyond repair. So take a deep breath. Failure will eventually yield to slow building accomplishment, punctuated by earth-shattering moments of joy and triumph. And by the grace of God, maybe we could avoid failing at the feet of heartbreak this time. Now, by the way, very good email, and he's kind of right when you think about it. I know 1986, they didn't exactly face a lot of adversity during the regular season, but for our eras, you're right. 1999, which was a really fun year, they fired all the coaches at Yankee Stadium. The season was going nowhere. 2000, I guess, really didn't face that much adversity. They were kind of a good team throughout. They didn't win the division. Maybe that's the adversity. Eventually got to the World Series. They coasted 06. It ended in disaster. 15 featured so many ups and downs, ended with them going to the World Series. And you're right about 22 and 24. So I think that's fair when you look at the relatively recent Mets history. Let me continue, though, because this is a very good email by Mikey. So with all that said, it's time to rant. With A.J. Minter on the IL, I'm gravely afraid for the Mets bullpen. Long gone are the days of I like Big Buto, and I cannot lie. He can no longer be allowed to occupy a seat in the circle of trust. He is excommunicated. We can blame Juan Soto for the leadoff double or Mendy for leaving McGill in one too many batters, but Buto's job is to put out fires, not throw more gasoline on them. At this point, just put in Danny Young and be done with it. As for Ryan Stanek, I have one question. Would it be possible just once to throw his splitter or slider on an 0-2 pitch to the leadoff batter? How on earth was the same mistake made twice in 3 days? I like Ryan Stanek and will certainly continue to play an important role in the bullpen, but his pitch sequencing needs to be fixed immediately. Most importantly, let's keep our heads high. It's April 27th. It is true. It is April 27th, and it took about a month for us to really feel that Metsian kind of loss. Very good email. Charles writes, this team is pathetic. Not scoring in the ninth with second and third no outs is a joke. Why not pinch hit for Starling Marte there? You have Winker, Alvarez, and McNeil on the bench, all better than that loser Starling Marte. Brandon Nimmo looks like a little leaguer up there. Jose Buto should never see the light of Major League mound ever again. Ryan Stanek is not a closer. Pathetic loss. Unbelievable. I hate this team. So a little bit different than our previous emailer. I didn't think of pinch hitting for Starling Marte. And I think a part of why I didn't think of it was that I liked the fact that Marte had some productive at-bats in this game. Remember, he came up earlier in the second inning when they had first and third one out, and he didn't bounce into a double play. He didn't strike out. He had a slow roller and drove the run in. And all I need is a productive out. So, yes, you're right. You have Jesse Winker, who has not exactly lit the world on fire, for being fair. You do have Jeff McNeil. I'm not sure how many Met fans would have run to love seeing Jeff McNeil hit a weak fly ball to left field. But I was inclined to stick with Starling Marte in that spot and just hope he was going to get the job done, which unfortunately he didn't do. Brian writes, Evan, the Met offense is an absolute disaster when they have a runner in scoring position and less than 2 outs. I feel like there are so many times where we get a leadoff double and can't even move the guy to third. Do you think this eventually gets better? I also feel like we have too many games where we only score in one inning. Maybe it's just me, but if we're going to have this great offense everyone talks about, they need to score throughout the game. P.S. Maybe they should pinch hit anytime Brandon Nimmo comes up with runners in scoring position. I do think it'll get better because they're better than this. You know, we said that a lot in the first month of the season. This is an offense that's averaging about 4.2 runs per game. They should be better than that. And I think the difference, what will bring those numbers up, is that they will be more productive with runners in scoring position, even though they haven't. Sean writes, it's time to talk about Juan Soto. Guys, obviously a very frustrating loss today. Offense needs to do more, especially in that situation in the ninth inning. That being said, I'm putting this loss 100% on Soto. The misplay and right on the ball he lost in the sun was the turning point of the game. He continues to play with this nonchalant attitude, and he's cost us 2 games in this series with his defense. I'm not going to gripe about his bat because I believe it'll come around, but the lackluster effort displayed so far has been a joke. By the way, Juan Soto got on base 4 times in this game. So when we talk about his offense, he is showing some signs of waking up, even though he took an 0-4 in game 2 of this series. He did get on base 3 times in game 1 and 4 times in game 3. Still not doing what we expect, and the expectations are certainly high, but there are signs of him breaking out of it. I get that the sun and wind was an issue on Sunday, but Tyrone Taylor was in range to make that play. Soto gave no indication he couldn't find it and didn't communicate with Taylor at all. The ball off of his glove in the night on Friday was also very catchable. For a guy making $800 million, could we get a little bit more effort and intensity? What happened to impacting the game in the other positive ways when he's not hitting? He's a liability in the field, and it's only year 1. Yikes. Side note, McGill was fantastic. He pitched to the score and threw strikes. At times, his fastball had that very Harvey-esque late life. It's too bad Soto's misplay had to sour his great start. We need a split on Monday. Love the pod. Thank you, Sean. I think the defensive play from 2 nights ago, and we talked about it, we did a Rico after the opener of the series. You can go back to episode 470. I thought it was a tricky play. I didn't think it was the easiest play in the world. What happened on Sunday, yeah, I mean, it opened up the possibility of a rally. He makes that play, 1 out, nobody on, 7-1 game. There's a good chance Tyler McGill just cruises through that 7th inning. Now, there are a lot of other things that led up to this loss besides just putting it on that one play, but it's a play you got to make. And you're right. I mentioned Tyrone Taylor as a center fielder could always just take over and call him off. Watching that play, Soto gave you no indication that he was confused. Nick wants to jump in on Soto. I understand slumps happen. I'm annoyed at that. But is it too much to ask a guy getting paid $765 million to catch a simple fly ball? The bullpen was bad and all, but it snowballed from that. Patrick Simpson writes, first off, I have to say I love the show. Love you guys on the fan. I grew up with you and Joe. We appreciate that. Anyway, I feel like a downward spiral is incoming. This team, as usual, hits and gets a lead, but never gets the big hit when they need it. Now the bullpen starts to show its true colors, too. It's frustrating. Also, did you see this clip of Juan Soto? I attached it, and it's not a good look. Anyway, more venting than anything else. Keep up the good work. He attached a clip of Juan Soto. I'm going to analyze it for you. Boy, I'm getting sick of the analyzing Juan Soto clips. All I want him to do is make plays. That's it. Now, he didn't make a play here. It just looks like a picture of Juan Soto standing there. So I got nothing with his video. I don't know what it is. But apparently it's a bad look for Juan Soto. I don't buy it. I've learned my lesson from the last time we went over this with the he's not celebrating. Game 4 of this series against the Washington Nationals, a late afternoon, Monday afternoon game, is a somewhat important game. It's a somewhat important game because that email from our last emailer will start to get louder if 2 losses that they had in their hands against a lousy Nationals team turns into a series loss. And the schedule is about to stiffen. I think the Diamondbacks are a very solid team. They're going to have to deal with Corbin Burns. They're going to have to deal with Zach Gallen. And the Mets are due to lose a game or 2 at Citi Field. Then they've got a trip where they go to St. Louis and Arizona. So they see a lot of the Arizona Diamondbacks, obviously, over the next week and a half. They have a series against the Chicago Cubs. The Yankees are coming up next month. The Red Sox, the Dodgers. The schedule is going to stiffen. And I think losing this series to Washington, especially with the way they've lost game 1 and game 3, will lead to more of, wow, the season's about to turn now for the bad. So it is important for, not, I was going to say Griffin Canning. How about the Met offense? How about this offense? I know they scored 7 runs, which for them is a lot. I mean, how many times have they scored 7 runs this year? In fact, that is tied for the 3rd most runs they've scored any game this year. But how about the Met offense? Not just have 1 big inning, but pound former friend Trevor Williams. How about the Mets put up a 12 spot? Something like that. And so they don't need excellent pitching out of Griffin Canning. They don't need perfection out of the bullpen. That'd be nice. But I think Monday's game, and we will, of course, have our series recapping Rico at some point on Monday night in your inbox by Tuesday morning, where we will announce the Rico, I'm the man now, star of the series, preview the Arizona series, recap this series a little bit more. But it's one of those games that for April 28th is a tad bit more important than others because of the nature of these last 2 losses that they have suffered. Couple of other things. I was surprised in game 2 that Mendy feels more comfortable with Acuna second, Nimmo left, McNeil center. What does that tell you about how they feel about Acuna in center field? I guess it could also tell you that they really like Acuna's defense at second, but I was surprised, and that's certainly worthy of keeping an eye on as the days and weeks go by. AJ Minter to the IL, Jose Urena takes his spot. And we are suffering the worst loss of the season. Luckily, they play on Monday with a chance to erase it.
Well, I just want to touch something with the Jeff McNeil stuff because I think Acuna has solidified that second base spot. I think it's more of we're going to try to keep getting McNeil at bats to see if he can come back to his old self, because at some point in time, if he's unproductive too, they're going to have to make decisions on who are they keeping around, even at the trade deadline. Like, you can't have an unproductive offensively, an unproductive Brandon Nimmo who doesn't play great left field. You can't have an unproductive Jeff McNeil offensively, and he's not as sound as Acuna. You're going to have to start making tough decisions. Starling Marte, you can't have him around this team offensively if he's not going to produce.
You know what's difficult for Starling Marte? And I was thinking about this the other day. He gets the game-winning hit on Wednesday afternoon. Game-winning hit. Big moment for him. Mets have an off day Thursday. He is not in the lineup or does anything off the bench Friday or Saturday. So you get the game-winning hit, nothing Thursday, nothing Friday, nothing Saturday. Hey, you're in the lineup on Sunday. That has to be an adjustment for a guy that's played every day his entire career. That's the reality. And it's not to make an excuse for him. It's just he is in such a different role. And I thought about that as he came up in Sunday's game and he walked his first time up. He had a pretty good at-bat. I'm like, man, this can't be easy for this guy. Game-winning hit on Wednesday, and now you're on mothballs for the next 3 days.
And he's not even playing the field. Like, he's at least you can play the field a little bit and get, warm up and do other things, get your mind off of hitting. He's just hitting only.
Acuna, though, is earning a role on this team. He already has. That's why Brett Beatty's down in Double-A getting doubles again. By the way, Brett Beatty goes down in Double-A, tears it up. We'll talk more about Beatty in Double-A, or Triple-A, I should say. Ronnie Mauricio's rehab coming up on the series recap of the Rico Brogna, which we will have posted and ready to go at some point on Monday night. And, of course, wherever you download your podcasts, it'll be there for you to download and listen on your commute Tuesday. But we thought it was important to come on and do a traditional Sunday, Monday Rico after a loss like that. And I will close on this note. Two things can be true at the same time. And I hope you got these emotions out of the last 45 minutes or so. You can be pissed at a loss, bothered by a loss, angry at a loss, but not press the panic button. I am not panicking. I'm thrilled this team is 19-9. I don't necessarily agree that all of a sudden the sky is going to fall. But the loss on Sunday, when you have a 7-1 lead against the freaking Nationals in the bottom of the seventh inning, 7-2 lead with 2 outs and a runner on first. So you are 7 outs away with a 5-run lead and 1 guy on base. You can't lose that game. And when you do, everything that contributed to it will be put under a microscope. Anyhow, they're 19-9. So that's we should think about it that way. Thank you very much for listening, downloading, and subscribing to the latest edition of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.